I feel really great about how we played in set 1 and 2. I think we controlled both of those sets, and they just got away from us late, especially set 1. I think we controlled the set the entire time, and we had the momentum, and then we just had a run late in the set that took most of the momentum, and we couldn't get it back. I think we battled and were ready to compete right away in set 2, and it was back and forth, and it was really competitive. But I'm really proud of the way we played in set 1 and 2. I think we can walk away with our heads high after a loss like that. I really wish we had played a little bit more competitive in set 3, but I think we did a really good job. Set 1 and 2, they had all of their starters in. It wasn't a situation where they were playing different players and were really challenging them, pushing them. Our players did a great job of executing the scout that we had prepared for them, and so it was just a really good learning experience for us and a good experience overall on the road, and it was a great match.
And that second set, very high scoring.
Yeah.
What does that show about your team's, I guess, will to win, you could say?
Yep.
About, you didn't win the first set, but you can still get a chance here. What does that say?
I think that's just being competitive and getting a little bit mature as we go on with the season. But I think a lot of that is, and we've been talking a lot about having urgency, but having urgency that's calm and that we're doing things on purpose in our style of play. And I think we saw that. It gets tight in the end. How do you respond? Do you respond in a mature way, doing the things that you want to do and the things that you do in your gym every day? Or do you try to start making things up and taking risks that you probably wouldn't take in a normal situation? And I think we played maturely, and we played in a way that we had urgency to win, and that it was under control, and it was good.
And then last one for me. I want to take a step back this past week in North Texas tournament. 2 weeks ago, not the best tournament, Wildcat Classic. You dropped 2 games, but this one you come in, you win two games on Friday. How does that feel for you to kind of have a momentum shift there where you go in, you play very well early in the tournament?
You know what? The North Texas tournament was a much higher quality tournament probably than the one that we hosted as far as like RPI and level of teams that were there. And so we knew going in it was going to be a hard weekend for us. And I'm really proud of that. We took that 3-set victory over on Montana State. They're a great team in the Big Sky that's going to beat a lot of people, and that'll be really good for us moving forward as far as just our RPI and the people that they're going to beat. We got the win later in that day. And that was one of those things that it was a team from maybe a very similar conference to the Southland, and it was about just keeping in our style of play, being aggressive, and I think we just did that. When we responded on Saturday versus North Texas, they played really well. And I think we didn't sort of pass the way we wanted to. And so we're really impressive when we do that, and we don't. It was really hard for us to compete in that way. But overall, I think that we learned from that weekend. We were able to get two good quality wins, and it was a good weekend for us, responding from a 1-2 from the weekend before. Thanks.
Yeah, Coach, in terms of, let's go back to Oklahoma for 1 second. When we had a conversation in the past, we talked about the importance of getting these reps against these bigger opponents, right?
Yeah.
So is there something that you saw in your team against Oklahoma that you were looking for when you guys played Tech, or something you learned about your team differently with this a matchup against another big team?
Absolutely. I think we played much more physical last night at the net, and that's the biggest difference. We take that next step to the Power 5 or maybe a mid-major that's in, the top 50 RPI. How physical are we going to be at the net? We can all ball control, probably pretty similarly, but how are we going to be physical at the net? And, we shut down Oklahoma very fast on one of their best plays in the first set, and so that was at the net, and it was responding in that way, and then just being physical and aggressive. And I don't think we were that aggressive or that physical coming into Texas Tech, and so that's growth, knowing that this is a team we need to respond differently than. I think Texas Tech, one's 8 and one's 9 in the Big 12, and so they're very similar, and so I think we got better, and we were more aggressive, and that showed in the scores.
And how, obviously every team wants to, set that, not only expectation, but just that standard of how you want to come out for each set, right? So, how important is it to you for your team to have shown that level of physicality to let other teams know that, hey, we're not trying to mess around when we see us in the court?
I think it's very important. It's a confidence boost, but it's also, there's teams already scouting Oklahoma for this weekend, and their coaches are texting me, and they're saying, man, your team looked good last night. Y'all are making some big moves. Y'all are going to be really good. I'm excited for conference for you. And those are people out of our conference, just people that I know. And so not only is it a boost for them, but it's a boost to us when I get those texts like, hey, we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we're making some jumps and some moves in the right direction. And so I think it's just gaining confidence. When you do things at a high level and you see some success, you're going to be more confident doing the next time.
Awesome, Coach. Thank you.
Yep.
You had a really great weekend at North Texas, but one of the biggest points from that was Bree Box and her performance. She got WAC Offensive Player of the Week. just want to talk a little bit about what she's been doing in the last several games.
Yeah, for sure. So Bree's hit over 450 for the last 5 out of 6 matches. And so for a middle hitter at our level, if you're hitting 350 or higher, you're having a pretty good match. And so she's in that 455, 600, sometimes I think one of the sets 700 range. So that's unbelievable at the net offense. I don't think even last night, either of the middles, Oklahoma didn't really have an answer for either one of them. And so if we can continue to pass well and get the ball in front of the net, get Bree going, get Braden going, I think we're going to open up the pins, and we're going to be really hard to stop. If we have 3 or 4 weapons going at the net, it's going to be really good for us.
Going back to the Oklahoma game last night, specifically the second set, final score 33-30.
Yeah.
How do you coach your players through that? How do you have them push through the potential exhaustion and tiredness of going into that long of a set? Because that's one of the longest sets I've ever seen in a really long time.
Funny, you're the second person that said that to me today. You know what? I think we were just taking one point at a time. Even when it was they were serving and the pressure was on us to receive inside out, I think we were just taking one point at a time. And everybody was doing a really good job of doing their own job. And I think if we can do that as a group, we're a really high-level volleyball team, and that's what happened. I said people were just taking their responsibilities and paying attention and doing the right things, and it turned out really well. Yep.
Something that, honestly, since the first weekend, Lindsay's been at the top of the WAC for kills per set, and Madison's been up there as well for assists per set. How important is that to you, and as a coach and to the team, that you have 2 players performing at such a high level with compared to other conference opponents? You
know what? I think it's really good. I think obviously Lindsay had that lights out weekend, the first weekend, and then there was a little bit of a drop off, but she's getting back into that, and she's able to keep that kills per set and what's the other one? Point per set in our conference. And if she can continue to do that and continue to get confidence, I think we're going to be in a really good thing. But it also goes back to Bree. If we can have both of them firing on one night, we're going to be really hard to defend. And I think Maddie's just doing a really good job of getting the ball and even forcing the ball to Bree out of system. And so that also opens up things for Lindsay. But I think having multiple players in those top 5, 10 categories is where it needs to be. And so we're just striving for that. Madison Lawler was there a little bit for digs per set. She dropped out this weekend. So we're hope next week we can get her back in that top 5, 10 for digs per set. But I think it's just really good, and it just shows that we have multiple players doing really great things in our program.